Hello, Namaskar. This is First Post and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. Donald Trump has a lot on his plate right now. A war in Ukraine, a war in West Asia, dozens of legal cases at home, and a full-blown trade war. In the middle of all of this, guess who he's hosting for lunch today? Pakistan's army chief, Asim Munir. Why is Trump rewarding and hosting a terror sponsor? Is it about politics, strategy, or business? Also, how should India see it? In West Asia, the war continues to escalate. After 6 days of attacks, Iran's supreme leader addressed the country. He has vowed to never surrender. But how long can he resist? That may very well depend on Donald Trump again. We'll take a look at what his strategy is. Will America join the war or not? And what about Russia? Will Vladimir Putin bail out his top partner, Iran? Or is he too busy in Ukraine? At the G7, it was a busy day for Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The big headline is a possible reset with Canada. And speaking of India's diplomatic moves, New Delhi is sending an ambassador to Pyongyang, North Korea. We'll decode what this means. And in the UK, Keir Starmer has made a U-turn. He has agreed to investigate Pakistani grooming gangs. All this and more lined up. The headlines first. In India, security forces kill a top Maoist leader in an encounter. 2 others were also eliminated in a major joint operation. The encounter took place in the state of Andhra Pradesh. This comes less than a month after the group's chief was gunned down. The Narendra Modi government has vowed to wipe out Naxalism in India by next year. And staying with India, it has granted license to Elon Musk's Starlink satellite internet service. New Delhi says this will open the quote-unquote next frontier of connectivity for the country. In March, 2 of India's largest telecom providers, Jio and Airtel, had teamed up with SpaceX to provide internet services to customers. Thousands of Cambodians take part in a rally over a border spat with Thailand. The massive crowd was led by the Deputy Prime Minister. The rally was to show solidarity with Cambodia's government and its troops. Last weekend, officials from Cambodia and Thailand held talks but failed to resolve the border standoff. Ukraine approves multiple citizenship as the war with Russia drags on. The move aims to ease a demographic crisis made worse by the war which began in 2022. It also seeks to improve ties with the country's large diaspora. The law does not ban Russian citizens from obtaining Ukrainian passports, but the government can impose restrictions. And a typhoon has led to severe flooding in southern China. Nearly 70,000 people have been evacuated. Many parts in Guangdong province are underwater. The typhoon, the first one to hit China this year, made landfall last Friday. Tonight, we're talking about America's war on terror, their unbeatable commitment to it, their unyielding principles, and their utmost reliability. Today, President Donald Trump is firing a salvo at the heart of terrorism. How? By serving lunch to Pakistan's army chief. I will repeat that for you. Donald Trump is hosting Asim Munir at the White House, and this time there is evidence. Let's show you what it is. The president's public schedule. Take a look at this. Look at the event at 1 p.m. local time, lunch with Pakistan's army chief. The media will not be there. This is slated to be a closed-door event, and this is a rare move for any U.S. president. White House meetings are meant for heads of state. It is rare for military chiefs to get it. We did some digging on this topic, and this is what we found. 3 Pakistani army chiefs have been hosted by US presidents. Ayub Khan by President Kennedy, Zia-ul Haq by President Reagan, and Pervez Musharraf by President Bush. Do you know the difference? All those army chiefs had captured power by then. So they were invited as heads of state, as presidents of Pakistan, not as army chiefs. They were invited to the White House in the capacity of the Pakistani president, not as army chiefs. But the same honor is now being given to Asim Munir, which raises 2 questions. Why and how should India see this? Well, India had launched a diplomatic campaign against Pakistan. Our delegations visited many countries in the world, including the US, this month. And they also met with Vice President J.D. Vance. But days later, Trump invites Asim Munir to his home. The same Asim Munir who spewed venom against India, who sponsored the Pahalgam attack, who killed innocent Indians living along the border. Simply put, this is an affront to India. And Trump did not stop there. He had a phone conversation with Prime Minister Modi yesterday. He invited the Indian Prime Minister to visit Washington, D.C. Of course, Prime Minister Modi declined the offer. He stuck to his plan of visiting Croatia. But imagine the thinking here. Donald Trump wanted Modi in Washington at the same time as Asim Munir. He wanted to meet the Indian Prime Minister and then the Pakistani army chief. This is a blatant attempt at hyphenation, a bid to club India and Pakistan together. Thankfully, Prime Minister Modi pushed back. His call with Donald Trump lasted about 35 minutes. The Indian Prime Minister set the record straight on Operation Sindoor. He also shut down Trump's attempts to claim credit.
प्रधानमंत्री मोदी ने राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप को स्पष्ट रूप से कहा कि इस पूरे घटनाक्रम के दौरान कभी भी किसी भी स्तर पर भारत अमेरिका ट्रेड डील या अमेरिका द्वारा भारत और पाकिस्तान के बीच मध्यस्थता जैसे विषयों पर बात नहीं हुई थी। सैन्य कार्रवाई रोकने की बात सीधे भारत और पाकिस्तान के बीच दोनों सेनाओं की एग्जिस्टिंग चैनल्स के माध्यम से हुई थी और पाकिस्तान के ही आग्रह पर हुई थी। प्रधानमंत्री मोदी ने जोर देकर कहा कि भारत ने न तो कभी मध्यस्थता स्वीकार की थी, न करता है और न ही कभी करेगा।
Now, just to give you some context, Donald Trump has been claiming credit for the ceasefire, and he has done so at least 14 times. In all, 14 times he has claimed credit. Until now, the pushback was coming from the Indian Foreign Ministry, but this time it came from the Prime Minister himself, and that too directly at Donald Trump. Prime Minister Modi said there was no trade talk during the ceasefire process, no mediation by the United States, and no leveraging of tariffs. He said India would always oppose any mediation bid. Now, this statement itself is also rare. Normally, Indian readouts are short and diplomatic, but this one was long and specific. It detailed exactly what Prime Minister Modi told Donald Trump. Meaning, New Delhi is losing patience with Washington. And by the way, the situation is not improving. Because hours after this phone call, guess what Trump did? He claimed credit for the ceasefire again.
Stopped a war between Pakistan. I love Pakistan. I think Modi is a fantastic man. I spoke to him last night. We're going to make a trade deal with Modi of India. But I stopped the war between Pakistan and India. This man was extremely influential in stopping it from the Pakistan side, Modi from the India side, and others.
Which brings us back to Asim Munir. What explains his outreach to Pakistan's army chief, Trump's outreach? What explains it? There are 3 main possibilities. The first is counter-terrorism. We know that Pakistan plays a double game on terror, but America does not seem to mind. They're betting on Islamabad to take out terrorists in Afghanistan. In fact, a US general called Pakistan a phenomenal partner.
Seeing Pakistan, with limited intelligence that we're providing them, go after them using their means to do that. And we're seeing an effect on ISIS courses. Pakistan had over 1,000 terrorist attacks in the western area, killing about 700 security and civilians and 2,500 wounded. They're in an active counterterrorism fight right now. And they have been a phenomenal partner in the counterterrorism world.
We don't buy it, though. This counter-terrorism partnership is not new. It can be managed by security officials, by US generals and Pakistan's army chief. But Trump's involvement suggests something more. A more political angle to this lunch with the Pakistani army chief. The second possibility is Iran. Pakistan is located right next to Iran. They share a 900-kilometer long border with the country. If the US gets involved in the war, they may want Pakistan's support, maybe their bases or their intelligence. That is a theory. But again, we don't buy it. The US has enough military presence in the region. Most crucial Iranian targets are in the west of Iran, which is further away from Pakistan. Plus, I doubt it would take a lunch with Trump to convince Pakistan. Chances are they would agree anyway. Which brings us to the final possibility as to why this lunch is being hosted, a business deal. The Trump family has signed a crypto agreement with Pakistan. Islamabad is hoping to ride the crypto wave. Last month, they even announced a Bitcoin reserve. So could this lunch be linked to that? A reward for handing out deals to the Trump family? It's certainly possible. But whatever the motive, India must take note. Of course, we cannot abandon our ties to the US. But we must be mindful of what Donald Trump brings to the table. In his last term, Trump was critical of Pakistan. This time, he is cozying up to them. It is not the behavior of a reliable partner. It is day 6 of the Iran-Israel war. With each passing day, the conflict is intensifying. Israeli warplanes are pounding the Iranian capital, and Iran is firing back with missiles and drones. This is a full-scale military campaign. Look at the latest Israeli strikes. They targeted strategic sites in Iran, including a facility that built uranium centrifuges and another one that produced missile components. Israel struck both of them. And these are not just tactical targets. These are core pieces of Iran's military infrastructure. Tehran tried to defend them but failed. So both sides are exchanging fire, and the war of words is escalating at the same time. After 6 days of fighting, the Iranian supreme leader broke his silence today. That's Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. He said, Iran won't surrender. He released a statement via the Iranian press.
The Iranian nation stood firm against the imposed war, just as it will stand firm against an imposed peace. And this nation will never submit to anyone's imposition.
Well, this was a response to Netanyahu, who's been talking about regime change in Iran. In fact, yesterday, the Israeli Prime Minister suggested that Israel wants to take out Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. It's a plan that the American president, Donald Trump, is said to have vetoed. In fact, Khamenei took aim at the US too. He warned them against entering this war. Listen to this.
Of course, the Americans, those who are familiar with the politics of this region, know that America's intervention in this matter is 100% to their detriment. What they will suffer in this regard is much greater than what Iran may suffer. The damage America will suffer if it makes a military intervention in this field will undoubtedly be irreparable.
So the message from Tehran is clear. They won't stop at striking Israel. If required, they will target the US too. This is what an Iranian official said, that if the US steps in, Tehran will respond.
We come to the conclusion that the United States is directly involved in attacks against Iran. We will start responding to the United States.
At least 585 Iranians have been killed in the last few days, and this includes 230 civilians, and more than 1,300 Iranians are wounded. But Iran is not holding back. It is also imposing costs on Israel. Since last week, it has fired more than 400 missiles towards Israel and hundreds of drones. At least 24 people have died in Israel and hundreds more are injured. Like I said, this is now a full-blown conflict. It has turned Iran's capital into a battlefield. Thousands of people have fled from Tehran. They're worried about more Israeli strikes. The tension is palpable on the streets of Tehran. They wore a deserted look today. You see, unlike Israel, Iran does not have dedicated bomb shelters. So metro stations and mosques have been turned into makeshift shelters. Petrol stations are now rationing fuel, just 10 liters of fuel for each customer. This has led to long lines outside stations and even more panic. Israel's warning caused the chaos. On Monday, they asked people in central Iran to evacuate. The message was circulated on X. Now, this is something that Israel has done before. It used the same playbook with Gaza, with Lebanon, and with Yemen. It issued warnings on social media asking people to leave. And even though X is banned in Iran, word got out. Then came a post from US President Donald Trump. He amplified the threats. He said everyone must evacuate immediately. The problem is, everyone cannot do that. This is Iran. It's a country that has been suffering an economic crisis for years. With no fuel, no money, and no shelter, for many Iranians, there is simply no way out. Unless, of course, there's a deal, a nuclear deal. For days now, Donald Trump has been pushing for it. He wants to revive the nuclear deal with Iran. He wants Iran to give up its nuclear program, and today he repeated the offer. Trump said Iran still has time, and it is not too late.
You don't know that I'm going to even do it. You don't know. I may do it. I may not do it. I mean, nobody knows what I'm going to do. I can tell you this, that Iran's got a lot of trouble, and they want to negotiate.
Is it too late, though? Do you think it's too late to now?
Really, nothing's too late.
Trump claims that Iran has reached out, that it is ready to talk. According to the US president, Iran has made a proposal. It wants to start negotiations, possibly even at the White House. But so far, Iran has said nothing of the sort. There is no official confirmation. And it also looks far-fetched. Can Iran really negotiate when warplanes are hitting Tehran? It's unlikely. But then again, the other option is worse. It's a war that no side can really afford, including those who are not fighting it. For our next story, let's go back in time. The year is 2016. Donald Trump came to power with a promise. No more stupid wars. That's what he said. No more stupid wars. No more Iraq, no more Afghanistan. Trump told voters that America was fighting wars in faraway lands it did not understand. And he would stop that. He would bring troops back home. And to Americans, that message resonated, which is why they voted for him not once but twice.
Our president will start a war with Iran because he has absolutely no ability to negotiate. He's weak and he's ineffective. So the only way he figures that he's going to get reelected, and as sure as you're sitting there, is to start a war with Iran. Now, I'm more militant and more militaristic than the president. I believe in strength. But to start a war in order to get elected, and I believe that's going to happen.
That was Donald Trump warning that Barack Obama would start a war with Iran because he cannot negotiate. But today the tables have turned. It is Trump who is flirting with the same war. Yesterday, the US president went on a social media blitz. It was post after post on Truth Social. The first one claimed US control over Iranian skies. The second one was even more grave. Trump issued a direct threat to Khamenei, the Iranian supreme leader. In fact, let me quote from what it said. We know exactly where the so-called supreme leader is hiding. He is an easy target, but is safe there. We are not going to take him out, kill, at least not for now. So Trump says the US knows where Khamenei is hiding, but they won't kill him At least not for now. Those are the US president's words. And if that wasn't enough, there came a third post. This one had only 2 words: unconditional surrender. Basically, Trump wants Iran to give up arms. But to what lengths will he go to achieve it? Will he join Israel's war? He has not ruled it out.
You don't know that I'm going to even do it. You don't know. I may do it. I may not do it. I mean, nobody knows what I'm going to do. I can tell you this, that Iran's got a lot of trouble, and they want to negotiate. And I said, why didn't you negotiate with me before? All this death and destruction. Why didn't you negotiate? I said to the people, why didn't you negotiate with me 2 weeks ago? You could have done fine. You would have had a country. It's very sad to watch this.
Yesterday, the US president convened his National Security Council. It was in the White House Situation Room. The meeting lasted 80 minutes. According to American officials, Trump is now seriously weighing a military move, joining Israel's strikes and targeting Iran's nuclear sites. And if you look at America's military footprint in West Asia, it sure looks like they are getting ready. Look at the latest US deployments. 30 jets have been shifted from American soil to Europe. This list includes bomber and tanker planes that can refuel jets mid-air. Meanwhile, more firepower is pouring into West Asia. F-16s, F-22s, F-35s, they're all now on standby at US bases across the region. At sea, American warships are on the move. The USS Sullivan is already in action. It is intercepting Iranian missiles fired at Israel. It's been joined this week by the USS Thomas Hudner. The USS Carl Vinson is patrolling the Arabian Sea. Then we have the USS Nimitz. This is one of America's most powerful carriers. It is sailing from the Indo-Pacific towards West Asia. Plus, there is significant troop presence. The US already has a massive footprint here. 40,000 to 50,000 troops are present in West Asia. They're stationed across 19 military sites.
Is there any concern about US troops or assets in the region at all today?
You have great people that know how to protect themselves.
And when you say better, what's
we'll come down so hard if they do anything to our people. We'll come down so hard that their gloves are off so beautifully. Now, I think they know not to touch our troops.
So that's a lot of firepower. But will Trump be tempted to use it? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Donald Trump loves to win, and right now he has that opportunity. There's the infrastructure. All it needs is one strike. So officials say Trump is tempted. Not because he believes in dismantling Iran's regime, but because he wants the photo op. He may not want this war, but he very much wants the victory. And maybe that's the play. So far, Trump has not struck Iran. He has not given the green light for an invasion. Yet, he has moved enough military hardware to build pressure on Tehran. So the plan could be this: to let Israel weaken Iran, offer to mediate once the dust settles, take credit for peace and power, and then call it the art of the deal. Although not everyone is buying this plan, especially some of Trump's biggest fans, his so-called MAGA supporters. Case in point, Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor Greene. They've both rallied behind Trump. They both campaigned for him, and now both of them are questioning this war. They say Trump is being dragged into another endless war. And worse, he's being dragged there by Israel. But Trump remains unfazed. He has only one thing to say to his critics: that only he decides what America first means. So will the real Donald Trump stand up? Is he still the outsider who promised to end wars? Or will he now stumble into another forever war in West Asia? Whatever the answer, Trump has a decision to make, and this time he cannot tweet his way out of it. So Israel's allies are lining up to support them. But what about Iran's allies? Who can they count on? The Iranians. Well, Iran does not have allies like Israel, but it does have close partners like Russia and China. Tonight, we'll focus on Russia. What is at stake for them in this war? What role are the Russians playing, and what do they stand to lose? When the war started, Russia was quick to condemn it. They called Israeli strikes on Iran illegal. Days later, President Putin also offered to mediate, but Moscow says Israel is not interested.
You know, the Russian side, and President Putin in particular, said that Russia would be ready to provide such mediation services if necessary. At the moment, we see an unwillingness, at least from the side of Israel, to turn to any mediation services and generally enter a peaceful settlement path.
Mediation would boost Putin's credentials. I'm sure Iran will be open to it, but Israel is unlikely to agree. After all, they hold the military edge and momentum. So as things stand, Russia has no role to play. They are not sending weapons to Iran, they are not mediating, and they are certainly not joining the operations. Which brings us to the next question. What is at stake for Russia? Simply put, his closest partnership in West Asia. Putin has invested a lot in this Iranian regime. Both of them face Western sanctions, and that is the key unifying factor. It's not trade, it's not oil or gas, it is strategy. And we saw that in Syria as well. When the civil war broke out, the Assad regime was collapsing. At first, Iran supported and propped up Assad. And in 2015, Russia joined in. Together, they kept the Syrian regime afloat. Of course, now Assad is gone. But it's an example of their strategic cooperation. In fact, at one point, Russia was using Iranian bases to bomb Syria. That's how close they are. And the plan is to expand it even further. Earlier this year, Russia and Iran signed a strategic agreement, a 20-year military partnership. It talks about trading weapons, holding joint drills, and developing advanced technologies. But it doesn't mention mutual defense, meaning Russia is not obligated to protect Iran, though they can send weapons. Iran has done it since 2022. Reports say they have supplied 3,000 drones to Russia. And Russia used these drones against Ukraine. Now the question is, will Putin return the favor? Iran already uses Russian weapons, including the S-300 and the MiG fighter jet. But Iran would like more, perhaps the latest systems, like the S-400 and the Su-57 jets. But right now, Putin seems to be in no mood to share. He is tied up in Ukraine and he cannot spare any firepower. Again, we saw this play out in Syria. When the rebels advanced, Putin could have stepped in. His air force could have pushed them back, but he chose not to go there. And we all know what happened next. The regime of Bashar al-Assad was toppled. Will President Putin do things differently in Iran? As things stand, there are no indications that he will. But again, this is Putin we are talking about. He's known to throw curveballs. So let's look at what could influence his choices. What would Putin be looking at? Factor number one, ties with the Gulf Arab states. Russia is part of the OPEC plus oil cartel. They work with Arab Gulf states to regulate the energy market, and those states are vulnerable here. If Iran goes berserk, Arab assets will be on their target, which is bad news for Putin. He spent time cultivating those ties. So that's one factor, the Gulf states. Factor number two, the battle situation in Ukraine. This is a crucial year for Putin's invasion. Trump is pushing both sides to come to the table. Moscow is hoping to maximize gains before that happens. In that context, this war is a distraction. We saw that on Tuesday. Russia launched a massive aerial attack on Kiev. Take a look at this. Finally, the third factor, the appetite for diplomacy. We haven't seen it yet. But if this war drags on, there could be a clamor for talks, and Iran will want someone trustworthy, not the Americans or the Europeans, probably the Russians. This is what happened during the nuclear talks. The 2015 deal had 6 guarantors, the 2015 nuclear deal with Iran. It had 6 guarantors, the United States, France, Britain, Germany, China, and Russia. And Tehran will be happy to see Putin at the table. The problem is, we are a long way from that. Israel is intent on settling this on the battlefield. Unless that changes, Russia can only watch from the sidelines.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
First things first, please help our viewers understand what is Israel's ultimate objective in this war, which is now into its sixth day. Is it to end the Iranian regime, or is it to completely finish off Iran's uranium enrichment program?
Our aim is to remove a double existential threat. The threat is, of course, the Iranian nuclear program, which came very close to nuclear weapons, which, of course, we cannot allow to happen because this country is openly and publicly declare it want to destroy, it want to eliminate the state of Israel, and it also taking steps in that context. So this is simply impossible. And the second threat is ballistic missile program, which is already in huge numbers, but they have an intention to have a mass production, to have in a very short time 10,000 ballistic missiles. For a small country like Israel, it will be unbearable. So we went out and we took this historic decision as a last resort in the last minute in order to save ourselves from the risk of elimination. And this is what we had no choice but to do. We didn't put as an objective the change in the regime. We put as the objective the remove of the threats. And the issue of the regime can be a result, but it's not an objective. It's totally in the hands of the people in Iran.
Before you started this mission, what was the assessment given to you by your intelligence community as to how soon they believed Iran would procure a nuclear weapon? Because the American intel seems to suggest that it would have taken Iran perhaps years to procure a nuclear weapon.
No, that's not right. First of all, in terms of the enrichment, they are very advanced. They have enough materials for 9 atomic bombs before we started this operation. In terms of weaponization, they already also began to make a progress. And we thought that it might be an issue of 6 months.
Amid the chaos of war, Iran has a new diktat for its people. Delete WhatsApp. You heard that right. Iran wants its citizens to delete the messaging app. Why? Tehran says WhatsApp is spying, so its state TV is urging citizens to remove the app from their phones. They believe that WhatsApp is collecting user data, and that data could end up in Israeli hands. So they want a digital purge in Iran. But what does WhatsApp have to say? Of course, they've denied all of it. In fact, I had their statement with me. This is what WhatsApp has said, and I'm quoting, "We are concerned these false reports will be an excuse for our services to be blocked at a time when people need them the most." So Iran says it's spying, and WhatsApp says it is being silenced. Who is telling the truth? Can WhatsApp actually spy on Iranian users and pass off that information to Israel? To answer that, let's look at how this works. WhatsApp is owned by Meta. It is an American company. It is the parent company of Facebook and Instagram. On WhatsApp, your messages are end-to-end encrypted, which means only you and the person you're chatting with, end-to-end, can read them. Not even WhatsApp can read. But what happens when someone intercepts that message? Well, even then, they cannot see your message. It looks like digital mush. That's the benefit of end-to-end encryption. Only the sender and the receiver can read the message. So Iran cannot really argue that WhatsApp is going through chats. At the same time, there is a catch here. WhatsApp does collect what is called metadata. That is the stuff around your messages. Like when you use the app, how often you're active, maybe even your location or your IP address. That sort of data, the metadata, is collected, and it can often be quite revealing. It's like you can't read the exact conversation, but you can kind of figure out what is going on. And that is what Iran fears, and these fears are not without basis. Israel has a long history of spying in Iran. Its spy agency, the Israeli spy agency called the Mossad, has been linked to multiple espionage operations. It has assassinated Iranian nuclear scientists. It has conducted sabotage operations. It has carried out cyber attacks, like the Stuxnet computer virus. It crippled Iranian centrifuges used for uranium enrichment. In 2018, Mossad agents stole Iranian nuclear archives. Last year, there were the Hezbollah pager attacks. Walkie-talkies used by the Hezbollah blew up. The machines just blew up, 32 people were killed, and thousands of others were injured. These devices were manufactured by Israel as part of an elaborate ruse. In fact, the Israelis killed the Hamas chief in Tehran last year, right under the nose of the Iranian leadership. And this time too, Iran has arrested 28 people since the strike began. They have been accused of spying for Israel. So Iran is right to be worried. Its intelligence has been compromised on many occasions. Which brings us back to WhatsApp. It is one of Iran's most popular messaging apps, and this is not the first time that the regime is going after it. In 2022, we saw massive protests across the country, the Masha Amini protests. Protesters were using social media to organize flash mobs, to document crackdowns, and to reach the outside world, to tell the world what was happening in Iran. So Tehran blocked WhatsApp and Instagram altogether. This was after a young girl was killed for not wearing her hijab properly. It led to massive protests, and WhatsApp was their way of communicating with the world. Iran blocked WhatsApp and Instagram, and that blackout lasted over a year. This latest call to delete WhatsApp is not a full ban yet, but the pattern is quite clear. In times of unrest or war, Iran targets digital tools that it cannot control. For Iran, WhatsApp is like a Trojan horse in your pocket. So they want it out. After all, in this digital age, espionage does not need bugs in a room or agents in disguise. All it takes is an app on your phone. Prime Minister Modi has wrapped up his G7 trip. He is now in Croatia for the final leg of this visit. As always, the focus is on results. What did this trip achieve for Indian diplomacy? The biggest headline, of course, was Canada. Our ties have been rocked by the Khalistan issue. Former Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, accused India of murder. So it wasn't clear if Prime Minister Modi would be invited, if he would go. As it turned out, he was, and he did go. And in hindsight, it was the right call. Modi met Prime Minister Mark Carney of Canada at the on the G7 sidelines. It was the first meeting between the two leaders. Both men exchanged handshakes and smiles. No animosity, no hesitation, no awkwardness. At least not in the pictures. Carney said it was an honor to have India at the G7. And Prime Minister Modi called the relations extremely important. Listen in.
And it's a testament to the importance of your country, to your leadership, and to the importance of the issues that we look to tackle together, from energy security, from the energy transition that you're helping to lead, to the future of artificial intelligence, to the fight that we have against transnational repression, against terrorism, against other factors.
भारत और कनाडा के संबंध अनेक प्रकार से बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण है। कनाडा की अनेक कंपनियों का भारत में निवेश है भारत के लोगों का भी कनाडा की धरती पर बहुत बड़ा निवेश है। लोकतांत्रिक मूल्यों को समर्पित कनाडा और भारत मिलकर के लोकतंत्र को मजबूत करना होगा।
So the ice was broken. Now it was down to work. Two big decisions were taken by both leaders. First, to appoint new high commissioners. Remember, both countries rejected top diplomats last year. They downgraded their diplomatic missions. But Modi and Carney are reversing that. They will exchange high commissioners by July this year. After that, consular services should improve. That's the first decision. Secondly, they revived trade talks. India paused free trade talks with Canada in September 2023. That's when Justin Trudeau accused India of murder. But Modi and Carney have agreed to try and revive it. They will appoint officials to follow up. Beyond these decisions, one thing stands out. Neither leader spoke about Hardeep Singh Nijjar. He was a designated Khalistani terrorist. His death triggered the slide in India's ties with Canada. Carney was asked about Nijjar yesterday. Listen to his response.
Meeting with Prime Minister Modi, I wanted to ask you, what did you say to him about the murder of Canadian Sikh activist Hardeep Singh Nijjar?
We have had a discussion, the Prime Minister and I, about the importance of having the law enforcement to law enforcement dialogue, which is not just dialogue, cooperation directly, the importance of addressing transnational repression, as I noted, including when we met. Obviously there is a judicial process that's underway, and I need to be careful about further commentary.
Unlike Trudeau, he dodged it. And that is why it's important to have pragmatic adults in the room, not clueless Nepo babies. The question is, can this grow into a reset? Well, that depends on political will on both sides. Because let's face it, Canada won't just abandon the Khalistanis overnight, neither will they end the Nijjar probe. It depends on how much India is willing to tolerate and how much Canada is willing to crack down. Either way, the good news is this: both prime ministers want a reset in ties. After meeting Carney, Prime Minister Modi had a bilateral with the German Chancellor, Friedrich Merz. He thanked Germany for supporting India's fight against terror. The rest of the meetings were informal. The Prime Minister met the new President of South Korea, the President of Mexico, the Prime Ministers of South Africa and Australia, the President of France, and the Prime Ministers of the UK and Italy. Some of those meetings are going viral, mostly because you could hear what the leaders were saying. Prime Minister Modi was heard cracking a joke with Macron. He said he saw the French president's fight on Twitter.
You are fighting on Twitter? Nowadays you are fighting on Twitter?
Modi was likely referring to the spat with Trump. Macron said Trump had left the G7 to push for a ceasefire in Iran. But Trump completely denied it. He called Macron publicity-seeking on social media. Then came the meeting with Italy's Premier, Giorgia Meloni.
I'm trying to be a few.
And finally came UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer. He and Modi appeared to be having a very animated conversation. A lot of hand gestures and nodding was going on. Now, this is the thrust behind the G7. The idea is to make the leaders feel comfortable, to keep it informal and frank. During the G7 outreach meeting, Prime Minister Modi did exactly that. The session was about energy security. But the Prime Minister also talked about terrorism. He called out the double standards of some Western countries. Let me quote from what he said. For the sake of global peace and prosperity, our thinking and our policies must be extremely clear. Any country that supports terrorism must be held accountable and made to pay the price. Unfortunately, the reality is quite the opposite. On the one hand, we are quick to impose various sanctions based on our preferences and interests. On the other hand, nations that openly support terrorism continue to be rewarded. The message is clear. The G7 was very quick to sanction Russia. It was equally quick in supporting Israel against Iran. But it does nothing against Pakistan. So Prime Minister Modi urged the G7 leaders to do more. If not, he said global institutions would lose their credibility. And that sums up Modi's G7 mission. As always, a lot of meetings and discussions, but the Canada reset will probably be the top takeaway. And staying with India, New Delhi is reviving a forgotten diplomatic posting, a posting that's as isolated as it is strategic. I'm talking about North Korea. Yes, the Hermit Kingdom. India has just appointed a new ambassador to North Korea. His name is Aliyawati Longkumer. He's currently posted in Paraguay and will become the next ambassador to Pyongyang. Now, this post has been empty since 2021. So this new appointment is a big diplomatic signal. Why now? And what exactly is India trying to achieve here? Our next report tells you.
Here's something most people don't know. India and North Korea, they go way back. Their relationship is older and deeper than it seems. Flashback to the 1950s. India actually played mediator during the Korean War. New Delhi helped oversee the repatriation of prisoners once the fighting stopped. That left behind a sense of goodwill on both sides of the 38th parallel. And that relationship didn't end there. In the 1970s, Pyongyang joined the Non-Aligned Movement, a group co-founded by India. That was a big moment of alignment. Then came the 1980s and 90s, with high-level visits on both ends. North Korea's vice president and premier came to India. Top Communist Party officials too. In return, India's vice president visited Pyongyang in 1992. The last big trip was in 2018. General V.K. Singh, India's Minister of State for External Affairs, went to North Korea. So, this relationship was shaped by the Cold War. Back then, the West distrusted North Korea. And frankly, they weren't fans of India either. So New Delhi and Pyongyang, they found common ground like trade. Back in 2013, India was reportedly North Korea's third-largest trading partner, right after China and South Korea. In 2014, bilateral trade stood at around $200 million. But most of the trade stopped after UN sanctions on North Korea in 2017. India is now rebooting that relationship. Last year, it planned to reopen the embassy. Reports say a technical team went to Pyongyang for security checks. And now, India has finally appointed an ambassador, Aliyawati Longkumer. He is currently the charge d'affaires of the Embassy of India in Paraguay. He has now been named as the next ambassador to North Korea. The last Indian ambassador to North Korea was Atul Malhari Gotsarway. He left the country in 2021 by rail amid a mass exodus of diplomats from Pyongyang. So the post has been vacant for the last 4 years. Also, this appointment isn't a random move, and that is because of 3 reasons. Number 1, this is a relationship that's been on ice, but never broken. Reason number 2 is geopolitics. In the last few years, North Korea has been busy. It's supposedly sending soldiers to fight for Russia in Ukraine. So, North Korea is building stronger ties with Moscow. On the other side, Donald Trump met Kim Jong-un 3 times during his first term. He tried to get Kim to abandon his nukes. Now, the talks did not produce anything significant. But the goals align with India's. New Delhi, too, wants a denuclearized Korean peninsula. So if Trump resumes the dialogue, India shouldn't be caught off guard. Reason number 3, Pakistan. The Islamabad-Pyongyang axis is a long-standing one. Back in the 1990s and 2000s, Pakistani scientists helped North Korea build a bomb. In return, North Korea supplied missile technology. This dangerous nexus still exists. And in 2022, India raised this at the United Nations. So if Pakistan has a presence in Pyongyang, India wants eyes and ears there too. But what's it like to be a diplomat in Pyongyang? Well, it is lonely and under heavy surveillance. Reports say there are only 24 foreign missions in North Korea. Most are located inside a special diplomatic compound. Even inside Pyongyang, diplomats are accompanied by minders, government escorts who watch your movements. In fact, foreigners and North Koreans are kept completely separate. But even with all of this restrictions, it is the presence that matters. You need to see what's happening. You need to stay in the game, even if the game is frozen. That's why India is back in Pyongyang, with an eye on the past and a strategy for the future.
Now let's talk about Britain's grooming gang scandal. It has come roaring back into the spotlight. A damning report is out. It says the police and government officials downplayed the scandal and looked away. Why? Because they feared being accused of racism. The UK has long struggled with grooming gangs. These gangs are groups of men. They systematically abuse young girls, often for years, sometimes even decades. In several high-profile cases, the perpetrators were men of Pakistani origin. Now, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer is under fire. He once called demands for a national inquiry a quote-unquote far-right bandwagon. But today, he has endorsed the same inquiry. The UK government says this is about resetting the system. But for victims, the question remains, why did it take this long to act?
Britain is facing a reckoning. A scandal that has lingered for years has now been laid bare. And the truth is deeply uncomfortable. A new report by Baroness Louise Casey has confirmed what many suspected. The police and public officials turned a blind eye to child sex grooming gangs, and they did so to avoid being called racist. The report says a disproportionate number of offenders were Asian men. But instead of investigating, authorities chose to stay silent. They worried about community tensions. They feared accusations of discrimination, and so they did nothing. And that silence left children vulnerable. The report says there was an appalling lack of data. Police records failed to track the ethnicity of offenders. And the data that did exist was dismissed. Claims of grooming gangs were labeled sensational and biased, or simply brushed off as far-right propaganda. But this report lays out some undeniable facts. Baroness Casey says enough men from Asian ethnic backgrounds have been convicted. It merits a serious, national response. Yet for years, the UK government focused on local inquiries and downplayed the scale of the issue. The numbers tell their own story. According to the report, around 500,000 children in the UK are likely to experience sexual abuse each year. Police recorded 100,000 offences in 2024 alone. Of these, 17,100 cases were flagged as child sexual exploitation, but the number of cases attributed to gang grooming, just 700. Baroness Casey says that figure is highly unlikely to reflect reality, and that is perhaps the most damning part. The system wasn't just unprepared, it was unwilling to examine these cases. And now it's facing the consequences. The political fallout has begun. UK Home Secretary Yvette Cooper has apologised to victims. She has announced a new national inquiry, an effort to fix what is broken. But that apology has come too late for many. The Prime Minister has also weighed in. Keir Starmer says he commissioned the report to double-check the facts. And having read it, he now agrees with the findings. He called it common-sense politics. That's a stark contrast from January, when Starmer said those demanding a national inquiry are jumping on a bandwagon and of amplifying far-right talking points. He defended the decision to launch only local reviews, but today he has backed the very inquiry he once rejected. It's a U-turn, and it has left the Labour leader politically exposed. Baroness Casey is calling for a national reset, a complete revamp of the system. She wants officials to be open to scrutiny and change. She wants transparency, accountability, and above all action. But the damage is already done. For years, children were failed. And those in power chose politics over protection. This is no longer just a crime story. It's a story of national failure and shame.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
First things first, please help our viewers understand what is Israel's ultimate objective in this war, which is now into its 6th day. Is it to end the Iranian regime, or is it to completely finish off Iran's uranium enrichment program?
our aim is to remove a double existential threat. The threat is, of course, the Iranian nuclear program, which came very close to nuclear weapons, which, of course, we cannot allow to happen because this country is openly and publicly declare it want to destroy, it want to eliminate the state of Israel, and it also taking steps in that context. So this is simply impossible. And the second threat is ballistic missile program, which is already in huge numbers, but they have an intention to have a mass production, to have in a very short time 10,000 ballistic missiles. For a small country like Israel, it will be unbearable. So we went out and we took this historic decision as a last resort in the last minute in order to save ourselves from the risk of elimination. And this is what we had no choice but to do. We didn't put as an objective the change in the regime. We put as the objective the remove of the threats. And the issue of the regime can be a result, but it's not an objective. It's totally in the hands of the people in Iran.
Before you started this mission, what was the assessment given to you by your intelligence community as to how soon they believed Iran would procure a nuclear weapon? Because the American intel seems to suggest that it would have taken Iran perhaps years to procure a nuclear weapon.
No, that's not right. First of all, in terms of the enrichment, they are very advanced. They have enough materials for 9 atomic bombs before we started this operation. In terms of weaponization, they already
And now it's time for Vantage Shots, images that tell the story. Iran shoots down an Israeli drone using a surface-to-air missile. Ash covers roads and homes after a volcano erupts in Indonesia, and a light show including nearly 12,000 drones shatters world records in China. Finally, we are taking you back in history. On this day in 1980, Indian mathematician Shakuntala Devi set a Guinness World Record. She mentally multiplied 2 random 13-digit numbers in just 28 seconds. This included the time she took to recite the answer. Shakuntala Devi was known as India's human computer. We are leaving you on that note. Thank you for watching.
One, 4, 0, 6, 2, 6, 4, 4, 3, 6, 2, 3, 2. That's my answer. What does the Phi set have to say?
It's the same.
It's correct?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Dette var jo greie saker, det kunne jo selv jeg gjøre.
and welcome to the Late Night Edition with me, Ayushman Singh Jamwal. Big breaking news coming in on top of the bulletin. Now we're learning is that Asim Munir, the Pakistan Army Chief, is currently in Washington, D.C. He has reached the White House. Those are the visuals on your screen. Asim Munir is in Washington, D.C. to meet U.S. President Donald Trump. This coming after Operation Sindoor and the diplomatic outreach from the Trump administration to the head of the Pakistani armed forces. Those are the visuals on your screen where Asim Munir is headed to the White House to meet US President Donald Trump. A crucial meeting between Pakistan and the United States, but clearly the optics working